All right, I think we're ready. I just got to hit the on air, right? I've never done that. That's something new. All right, I'll call this meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 6:01 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call. All members are present. And with that, we will move to approval of the minutes of December 20th.
Motion to approve December 20th meeting.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Any discussion, comments? Not? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Now move on to public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Anybody online? Is there anybody online? Okay. Then we will move on to new business. Item A, ambulance billing request, Cheryl Tebow. I would love to, because this is kind of new for me. I've been on GGF for a while and I've never had this type of request.
Me too. So there are two items very similar, items A and B, and I included a memo in with your packet for both of those items. The first, item A, the person is requesting a complete write-off of the transport fee, which is $200. And the second, item B, they are asking for the amount to be billed at a Medicare rate or a non-insured rate. The normal process when there is a complaint involved, they call into the fire department, they call into Village Hall, and I have said to them if they want to ask for a different billing, that they would need to make a request in writing, and that's where these two have come from, is a request in writing. If there's a different process, we'll follow a different process. This is the first time I have had anyone actually follow through with the request in writing. I will tell you I have one more that I have sent back to Three Rivers because it reads as though there is a billing issue with their insurance rather than these two. So I wanted to give Three Rivers a chance to respond to that one before going any further into that. But that's what I have in the memo included in the packet as well.
Okay, and I think Chief Delane has something to say.
Yeah, we do get a couple of these every year, maybe a half dozen to a dozen, not a ton. And typically what we do tell them if they wish to dispute the charges is to bring it to the village board. There is nothing written in any of the ordinances or any of the billing schedules that allows for any of us to reduce any type of payment for any type of hardships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Terry.
For Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, I think the public needs to know this too, because I mean, I think this is fair. I mean, you have to go out on a call, paramedics going out on a call, potentially transporting, potentially not. You still are taken away, my understanding is, taken away from everything else for that period of time to handle an issue.
Correct.
Okay. So tell us how you decide what the billing is going to be, just so anybody listening could hear what that might be tonight.
We have certain triggers that are in our written medical reports that we do. Typically, when the billing company reviews our record of the call, as they're going through it, they pick out the things that, as a board, you guys have voted on for charges. So if there is a certain medication that's used, they look up what our billing fee schedule is, and that's included with it. Our transport costs, our mileage costs, and even in the incidences of no transport where we do show up, there is a charge for that. Because it is wear and tear on the vehicles, there are still supplies getting used. For example, especially right now with COVID, they're using masks, they're using all these disposable items to run this call. So all of that stuff is taken into account as the billing company goes through our reports.
And that cost is $200
About that.
for the show up
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep.
You know, I was having discussions because I had to get other opinions on this with different people, and kind of where we net. Somebody says to us, hey, wait, I'm paying for this in my taxes. Yes, we are paying your salary in our taxes. We are paying the salaries and the training for paramedics and the purchase of an ambulance, and they have all that available for you. But you have to fess up and put your money in when you need it, when that ambulance shows up at your door. So I personally, I mean, I think I have no problem with giving these people time to pay and breaking it out like as a monthly payment of some sort. And I mean, $200, see what she can do. But I would definitely not start a trend of saying, nope, no, we
And our-
have to charge for this.
Our billing company does work with the residents, and they have set up
They'll do
payment plans.
payment process
Yeah.
or payment plans.
Yep.
yeah.
And are they generous with that in case somebody really doesn't have the money or insurance? They'll string it out over a year or whatever.
Yes.
Again,
Okay.
These people are on Medicare and this portion Medicare did not cover because it wasn't a transport.
Apparently, I can't speak
Yeah.
for sure. We do not collect insurance information on an ambulance. All we
Sure.
do is just the person's demographic, and the billing
You
company
bill it,
sorts
and
it
then
out.
it's, yeah, then it's taken care of.
Yep.
Got it.
Now, just one other comment. When I was reading the written response from this couple, it made it sound like we are doing this disservice only to elderly and infirm people or something, and that's not the case. I mean, this charge goes to everybody, whenever you show up. And that just kind of, that is just so untrue. I mean, it's,
Yeah, everybody's billed the exact same way,
Yeah.
through the exact same process by a third party, so our hands are off of it.
Mhm.
And we like it like that. We can't be accused then of
Mhm.
playing favorites.
Question.
Yes.
I believe the first one, if Deanna, if I got it correctly, they wanted to change the charge, where the other one wants it just to
The,
one. Is
the
that
one,
correct?
the first one is a forgiveness of $200 for
Okay,
the
just-
bill. The second one is the reduction to the Medicare.
Okay.
And I think we should take these separate. So
Oh,
let's
I
go
agree.
through item
Because
A
they're both not the
first.
same. They're both different people.
Yeah, let's go through item A first, and that would be the $200 request to actually forego the $200 bill. So we've heard Terry's comments. Any other comments on this?
No.
I would move to deny that request of $200.
Can we do that? I think we have to make it positive,
Sorry.
and then we vote it down. Or attempt to vote it
The
down.
attorney would say, yeah.
All right, then I'll move to approve the request of $200.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Just my comment is I tend to agree with everybody here that, this is just a standard billing practice that we have. Unfortunately, it is a $200 payment. Medicare seemed to pay for the rest of it, and it may happen again, and I'm sure it happens often. I mean, you have over 2,000 calls a year now, right?
That's correct. Last year, we ended up with 2,400 calls, 14% over 2020,
Yeah,
which was 2,100.
amazing. So, all right, with that, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails. Move on to item B, for the billing request for Frank Miller. This one's a little bit different where this person is asking to reduce the bill to the Medicare amount, not the usual and customary rate, I guess. There's a different rate. We all know that for healthcare, there's different rates. Medicare caps everything at a certain rate. Billing companies do not. We can bill what we want and then negotiate from there.
Do we know why Medicare denied it the third time? It looks like they paid it the first and second time.
Well, this is actually the second one where this individual does not have insurance by his own admission.
We don't even know what the Medicare
What's the
rate is.
Medicare rate?
No idea what the
We don't know
Medicare
that.
rate is.
We don't know what.
We
these
don't know what the
rates are.
Medicare rates are. I mean,
I don't think we need to know that.
No.
no.
I would do the same thing on this. I'm sorry. I mean, we potentially saved a child's life and payment plan. And a very generous payment plan. If it takes a year and a half, I don't care, but this is a service that we provide and thankfully we do. And I just don't see budging on these. I don't mean to sound like,
Where do you draw the line?
Right.
Yeah.
Once you open the door.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion for this.
Right, Bill.
I would move again to approve the request.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. I think we've had the discussion already. All in favor, say aye.
Oh, excuse me. Teach me a lesson.
That was not an aye, right? That was,
No,
okay.
that's.
Opposed?
Aye.
I
Okay, motion denied.
am.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to item C, refund of liquor license fees, Lone Star.
Motion to approve.
Second, is this customary?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have any documentation for this, so is this? Oh, there might have been. I'm sorry. There was.
And
You're right, there was.
Mr. Chairman, this came before public safety in regard to the new owners and such, so I can understand that aspect. That's why I made a motion right away.
So this is the, one of those that can be prorated by state statute and by
Mhm.
our ordinance. And the other owner paid the remaining part of the year, and the request is for a refund of the $300.
Makes sense.
Deanna, so the Lone Star was sold? Okay. Why wouldn't the owners have gotten some kind of a credit on their closing statement? Why are we put in the middle of this?
This is not that type of a
this
fee. That would be, the closing statement would have more of taxes or any kind of those utility type bills. It would not include any license type of fees.
The liquor license is tied to the location and the owner, right? Or the person running
To the person running
running
the business.
The business.
the business.
So it
And-
can't be transferred, really.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right, any other discussion?
You mean a second? Was it a second? Excuse me.
I did.
All right, with that, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, Resolution 03-2022, Germantown Professional Police Association, Local 306 contract.
That was Steve. We're doing that.
I'm sorry, did I miss one? What?
Get it upset. That's-
Oh, I wanted Craig to wait a little longer. I'm sorry. No. Item D, capital data. Architecture for the backup.
Thank you so much. So this is our first project. I'm going to have Craig explain it from Capital Data.
Good evening, all. As I mentioned, I'm going to kind of walk through a proposal Capital Data's put together for refreshing the village, fire, and police departments' backup systems. So this is, the software that protects all the data for all your IT systems. I'm going to kind of skip through a couple of these slides because there's a lot of technical information here as well. So feel free to stop me and ask questions. But really, in simple terms, as it stands, the current state for backups is there are 3 separate solutions, similar solutions, one for village, one for fire, and one for police. They are all what we would term consumer-grade solutions, far from industry best practices as far as IT industry best practices. So currently, each location is backing up to like a little USB hard disk. And sometimes I think that hard disk is rotated and taken off site. Sometimes it's not. So very hit and miss as far as backups. And again, not a best practice design. The other driver for this initiative is that the police department's licensing, backup software licensing has expired in December. They're currently still backing up, but that software is expired and needs refreshing. And then the solution at the fire departments that is not backing up, it looks like there was never a solution, or the software was never purchased. So it was just a trial, and that expired a long time ago. So Capital Data is currently in the process of trying to implement a temporary solution to back up the fire, but as of now, there's nothing purchased there and nothing running. Any questions on current states? Nope. So we're proposing, again, a best practice industry backup solution, simplified, very common practice where, actually taking a step back, an industry's best practice is to have 2 copies of your data at all times in case one's corrupted, or now you hear the term ransomware as well, where hackers are coming in and taking your data ransom. Currently, you just have 1 copy, again, on these consumer-grade hard drives. Our proposal incorporates a dedicated backup system to protect the village, fire, and police's data, and then also replicate that data to a secure cloud location as well. So in the event of, a disaster physically here with the data, we've still got a second copy in the cloud to recover back from as well. The solution meets all your compliance requirements, specifically for the police department as well. So I've personally had a number of calls with the chief and captain around their security requirements. So the solution we're proposing meets all those requirements. And it also meets a lot of requirements around cyber insurance and things like that we've been working with Aaron on, around ransomware protection and things like that. So the solution's a dedicated backup server where it'll do a local backup copy of your data, and then it'll also take a copy of that and store it in the cloud securely as well. Okay. Question?
Who do we use for the cloud?
The company's called Wasabi. So
It's the same one. Okay. I
yes,
didn't know for
yep,
sure.
yep.
Thank you.
But the Wasabi themselves is CGIS compliant, which is a requirement for police. So we meet those needs there. We've evaluated your data and done some growth predictions. So the solution we're proposing, we're providing you 5 years worth of cost there, so for budgeting purposes. And that includes village, fire, and police. Again, this is more technical detail that I don't think we need to go through tonight, but again, it's designed as more of an enterprise IT solution that'll meet your needs moving forward. From an investment perspective, we've provided 2 options. We've provided an option where the police department or police and fire is separate to the village hall. So it'll be 2 separate backup servers, 1 at each location, protecting each location's data. And then we've also provided an option of consolidating that into a single backup server as well for all 3 departments. Our recommendation, after talking through with police and fire as well, is we don't see any reason why you wouldn't, you don't need to do you need to do separate. We recommended the consolidated option. You'll save, roughly 5,000 to 6,000 in the year 1 investment by just simplifying and going to a consolidated type. And I think it's our personal recommendation, just for the village in general is we see from our investigations, being engaged with you guys over the last couple of months is, there's a lot of disparate IT systems here. So, we're trying to consolidate and simplify everything. And with that comes cost savings as well. So we've broken it down into a year 1 investment for the village. And then we've provided what the annual subscription terms would be as well, moving forward for year 2, year 3, 4, and onwards.
Greg, question on the projections. You had Veeam local repository 2 weeks retention, and then cloud repository 2 weeks retention. What's the backup cycle on these? I mean, are we only keeping 2 weeks worth of data?
Yes, that matches your current backup policies. And I don't know, Aaron, so actually, I apologize, our solution architect team designed this solution, but the person that designed it has COVID, so I'm kind of standing in right now for this. Do you know from a backup policy perspective whether that was discussed? So
Yeah, I'm curious to find out how that ties into our legal requirements for all this stuff.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm assuming if they went off what we were doing before, that it should be in compliance, but I can definitely look into that. I don't think that there is anything, I don't know, Steve, if you know of something that is required, but currently, I mean, we're just backing up the days of the week, 7 days a week on
Sure.
a little drive. So
But I'm not saying that this stuff is only 2 weeks old. That's not it. It's just 2 weeks seems kind of short.
I would say you need a month's worth.
Would you know? What
But
is
it all
the
depends on the cycle of events here as well. You know, if you're not moving a lot of data around or not saving a lot of data on a regular basis, then 2 weeks is fine. I think Steve wants to weigh in here.
Well, just to say, well, a couple of things. First of all, just so that the committee is aware, Chief Snow is online. He's on WebEx this evening. If you do have any questions for Chief Snow on this item or some of the other items on the agenda. It's honestly something I think we can look into a little bit further. I think this is a good starting point. The question about whether 2 weeks is enough is a good question. I
And
think,
honestly, data retention and backup is two different things.
Yes.
yeah.
So I want to make that clear that we're not just holding data for 2 weeks and getting rid of it.
Correct.
Right. And I think the question for the village attorney would be, we're required to retain records that we have. But I don't know that we're required to have I don't believe we're required to have multiple copies of records. So if something would happen to a record, if we were responsible in having systems set up in place to maintain it, I think we would be legally okay. But now I'm sounding like an attorney and I'm not one, and it's something we'll follow up and ask.
I just think that needs to be reviewed at least. And
It's a good question.
Well, check. And I think from a growth perspective and from a cost perspective as well, so that extra retention period can be covered with the cloud solution as well, which is cost effective.
okay.
We can report back next month. Yeah.
Yeah, do we need to take action on this tonight, or is this just more informational, or?
Good chair.
the hope was to take action on this so that we could bring it to board and then start this project
So
so
and
that
it's
we
not on
can,
the board tonight, right?
not tonight, no.
So if we move to.
I could bring
if
something
we
back to the
Make a
board.
motion to move it to the full board tonight.
hmm
This is beginning of February you're looking at?
Yep.
It's in the budget, correct? We budgeted for
Yes,
all of this,
correct.
So who cares? It's done.
Committee?
What you said about going tonight to the board?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. I thought you said because if it ain't on the agenda.
It'll be probably first meeting in February.
Yeah, the 7th, I think it is.
So we could move tonight we could motion tonight to move this to the village board.
With approval of one of these? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah,
Okay, so with a decision.
Okay.
right. And I don't see any reason that we would go with a segregated one. I mean, the consolidated one makes sense.
I'll make a motion to approve the consolidated recommendation at a cost of $27,794.46 and move that on to the village board.
February 7th.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Second.
All right, we have a motion. Any other discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the contract. Germantown Professional Police Association, Local 306 Union Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Okay, thank you. So we were able to come to an agreement with the union. We included what the agreement came to. One of the things that they requested was holidays back, and so that's one thing that we have in here. There was also for those who start with us, we have for when they're in training to pay them either 75 to 100% of the base pay. We also have that they would be handling insurance just like all the other employees currently do, where they would be 12% utilizing the Go 365 plan. Otherwise, they would increase to 25%. And then the promotional procedure was changed, just so that the police chief and the union association would come to an agreement on how that played out. Right now, it's kind of well defined, and so it's taking that language out. And so then for the wages, it would be a 1% increase for 2022, a 2.5% increase for 2023, and a 2.5% increase for 2024.
Okay. And I think Chief Snow talked about that at budget time about the holiday pay that was probably going to get back into the contract. All right, committee, any questions?
Is that the only major difference in this? Is the holiday pay coming back?
On the increase in wage.
Well, that's not significant.
Might be in line with-
And who
Yeah,
negotiates?
pretty much that, and the fact that they're going with the insurance policy for premium increases.
And who was involved in the negotiation? Steve, was it you or was it our attorney or?
Chief Snow and Aaron, they consulted with me regularly, and when questions came up, they did reach out to Kyle Gulia and as needed.
And Captain Todd was involved as well.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion to approve the most current contract. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, fire or battalion chief pay increase.
So our battalion chiefs are not covered under a collective bargaining agreement. They are underneath the village's pay schedule. What we are running into, kind of like the police that have had in the past with wage compression issues. Currently, the battalion chiefs are making about $77,000 a year. The top firefighter, full-time firefighter, made over 80 last year. And a couple other ones were not too far behind. What I had in the 2022 budget was a 5%, in hopes of promoting a lieutenant. So it'd been 5% over their base wages. We are going to forego the lieutenant's position. And what I would like to do is to alleviate that compression issue would be to
Makes sense.
give 5% to the battalion chiefs.
Sure.
It still would fall within the same range that they're in their pay schedule. It would just give them a little bit closer to something comparable that their firefighters that are working below them aren't making more.
And we have 3 chiefs, right? Battalion chiefs?
We have 3 battalion
Three
chiefs,
positions.
correct, but only 2 of them would be eligible for this right now.
Okay. Good to know.
So that increase would be about $3,800 per battalion chief, $3,852 around there, bringing them up to around 81,000.
That was my question. No.
All right, committee,
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. We have a motion. Any other discussion?
The only other question I had is in regard to why not all 3 at this time?
There is going to be a change in roles for one of the battalion chief positions. So one battalion chief is going to be vacating his role, and that would give us a new person to bring up. And that person would still fall within this same range, but they're going to be at the lower end of it to begin with.
Thank you, John.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, KOA Hills Utility Data Conversion.
And I'll take this one. Last month, the village board approved a contract with Tyler Munis for implementation of a new financial management software. One of the first module that we'll be implementing is utility billing. And one of the labor intensive and kind of critical tasks in this is downloading data from our current system so that it can be uploaded into the new system. Tyler Munis, as part of their contract, will take the data that we give them out of the old system and upload that into the new system. But we are responsible for getting the data out of our old system. As I think the committee is well aware, we've been having a lot of issues with our old utility billing system. It's an old Cobalt-based system that is in many respects failing. I'm very concerned about our ability to get that data out in a timely manner on our own using staff resources, just based on the experiences that we've had over the past year and the failures within the system. And also noting that with these implementations, time is critical as well. So, our implementation consultant has schedules set up with their staff in order to do things. If we're not ready for our part of the work, if our part of the work isn't done, that throws things off schedules and can affect project budgets. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. And then, the final note that I would make is that because of the issues with our system, we're having to do manual entries every billing cycle, and literally thousands of manual entries every billing cycle. And then following up, we've been getting usually a couple of hundred phone calls that we have to respond to after each bill goes out. So staff is already stretched very thin. And when I looked at all those factors, and just how critical I think it is that we get the billing system right, that we fix the problems that we've been having, that we get this new system implemented on time, and that we do a good job with it. I'm recommending that we enter into a contract with a KOA Hills, which is a company that has a lot of experience on this type of implementation, on getting system data out of these systems and into the format required by MSI billing systems, so that we're able to deliver on what we've been promising with the new utility billing system.
Motion to approve.
I'll second for discussion. Steve, obviously if we do this, that's an additional $40,000. Where are you looking to budget this?
Since the billing system is used by the water and sewer utilities, this would be paid for out of the water and sewer utilities. I believe that they can absorb this within their professional services budgets for this year.
I'll add that to my motion, where it's coming from, the funding.
Steve, what kind of commitment do you think it's looking for as far as hours, days, weeks to convert this by KOA?
I don't have those specific numbers with me. We did talk, we've been talking quite a bit with the finance department staff from the city of Wauwatosa, they're about a year ahead of us with the implementation of Tyler Munis. They indicated that they struggled with their data conversion from their utility billing system. They said it took about 60% of the overall number of hours on the project, but I don't have an estimate available tonight for the
On the Tyler Munis side?
on the city of Wauwatosa side. So their staff, about 60% of the work for their staff was getting the data out of their system, and they had a much more up-to-date system than we do. So that was one of the other factors that we looked at this and the capability of pulling this off. This is another thing this would be on the schedule for the February 7th board meeting. That's a question I can get you an estimated number of hours and have that available for the February 7th meeting.
Also, Steve, would there be if you were to sign a contract with them, would there be a time frame then that they'd have to have it done by May? I'm just using May 1st as an example, or something like that.
Yes, yes, and that would be coordinated with the Tyler Munis project schedule. This is a company, they were referred to us by Tyler Munis. They've worked with them in the past, and they've had success making this happen.
May I?
Yes.
How did we originally plan to do this, like during the budget process, if not to hire a firm?
The way we were planning and that we're still looking at doing the data conversion for the rest of the system using our staff. It was, I guess that between the time we submitted the budget in September and the time it got approved in December, seeing all of the issues that we were having and how much staff time that they were taking and how difficult it is working with the Harris MSI system, I became increasingly concerned. When we had a couple of project planning meetings in December with Tyler Munis, I asked them, we asked them, not just me, but we asked them multiple questions about the data conversion system. And they said, if we're being that concerned, they said, we'll give you someone you can get an estimate from. And that's what led to this.
It's been a very old system written in COBOL. There isn't a whole lot of people around anymore that have that knowledge. So I understand this is kind of an anomaly on the whole thing, and hopefully the rest of the data can be extracted easily. But this one seems to be a real bugger.
Okay.
I think we'll learn a lot from this first module as well in terms of the data conversion. I think, as I think about the data we'll need to convert, tends to be much more in utility billing when you look at all of the customer data that we have to convert, the information on fixed assets, meters, that all goes into that system.
So this isn't just meters and the address, et cetera. Do you have to have historical data as well?
Yes. Yeah, we have to have historical data. That's exactly what that is something we're still working through. Look at with PSC requirements. Utility billing, it's also complicated by the fact that we have to be able to put things in a format for the village budget and the village finances, and also in a different format for the PSC for their reporting requirements. So there's a lot. I think the most complicated data conversion. Human resources can be complicated as well, but I think the utility billing is going to be the most complicated data conversion component.
All right, we have a motion. Any other questions, comments? If not, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And this is going to, motion carries, by the way. And this is going to be a regular budget item on the village board, right? It won't be a consent agenda item.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to item H, resolution 04-2022, rescind a portion of 2021 real estate property taxes, GTNV 234-1-046, the reserve at Renwood.
Is this money that's being held?
What's wrong here?
Yeah, must have been an oversight or
I included a memo in your packet for both items H and I. Item H, this is real property at the reserve at Renwood. This is property that they have as their clubhouse, and the assessor has assessed for it on shared property for the parcels as well as Renwood's tax bills. So that's why it is actually taxed twice. So he is looking to take it off the one tax bill, and then it would be charged back to the other taxing entities. So that's an option if you want to go through that process, or it could wait until Board of Review. Either way, but it was thought to go ahead and bring it forward. It's a known error and correct it right away rather than letting it wait. So.
Thank you. I'll make that motion to accept.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, resolution 04/2022. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One more, resolution 05/2022, rescind portion of 2021 personal property taxes, GTNV PB is 344-001-93.
And this one is a personal property tax, and so it is different than real estate. It would not be charged back to the other entities. It is a little bit over $100. It's not very much money. This is where the company had sent information to the assessor, and I'm not sure if the assessor did not receive it or what had happened, but the company is no longer in the village.
Okay. So this is one that was just an oversight
Correct.
type of thing.
Correct.
All right, committee?
I will move for resolution 05-2022.
Second.
All right, a motion, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business, we'll move on to that, and the employee manual.
Read that carefully.
Okay, so this was given out at the last GGF meeting. And I was going to pose to if anybody had questions on this. I do have it in front of me. So if anybody wants me to review certain parts of it, I can definitely go through that.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Are all the changes are highlighted? Is that correct?
I think I gave you a clean copy and then I gave you a summary of the changes. But if you want me to go through those in further detail, I can.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of things highlighted. The changes, I thought all the changes were highlighted.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I thought all the changes were highlighted in here, weren't they?
Did I give you a highlighted version as well? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the manual in the packet does include all the changes are highlighted.
Perfect.
And this is really to change whatever compliance laws and things like that are in there, and some oversights in the
To
past.
tell you the truth, most of them are just things that never were changed, but we changed our process internally. And so it's just getting to what we're doing currently. There were some new policies that were put in here, a nursing mothers policy and a voting leave policy. And then I changed the pager pay to on-call pay, just because it made a little more sense. We changed our paydays as of 2022 so that everybody was getting paid at the same time, biweekly. And then a lot of it was just one of the big ones was currently for our part-time workers, we require them to work for 5 years before allowing sick leave or bereavement. And so we're taking that away so that they have it right away instead. So that was a discussion I had with both Park and Rec and Library, and they were both on the same page that that should not be, we should not require them to work 5 years before receiving some of those benefits.
All right, committee, any other discussion on this, updates?
Just a couple of questions, Aaron. On page 9, the top number 3, solicitation or acceptance, where it talks about not receiving a gift of any value or whatever. Don't you in some cases put a dollar value on that?
Some people put a dollar value on it, though it's a state regulation, so it might even be a federal regulation. I'm sorry, I don't know that off
And a
the top of my
state,
head.
federal, no dollar value on it at all?
But they don't have a dollar value either. So we normally say in-house, $25, but I don't think there's any,
Okay.
I would have to check with Brian, but I don't think there's any legal.
It's always been the way.
Braunschweig.
Understand.
This
Page
is
12.
PD. Echo. Library. I'm making sense.
Okay, I'm sorry. Page 12, you said?
Page 12, is there it explains the hiring process.
Oh, sure.
I just asked, does that have a place? Does it really need to be in an employee manual?
I don't know if it needs to be in
Separate.
there. I think it was put in there not too long ago, actually.
Okay.
Pretzels at back, always back left.
You know, if I could just jump in, I think Trustee Nyrider, it's a good point. Traditionally, or at least in the 4 years I've been here, the employee handbook included, you know, some things that I would say were typically in an employee policy manual, as well as some things that would be in like what I would call a policy and procedure manual. And I think something like the hiring process would more typically be in a policy and procedure manual. Things like, and that's something we could look at as an improvement to make in this document in the future. But in Germantown, they have been incorporated into the same document in the past.
Yeah, because I mean, the length of this thing is, so but I see where you're coming from.
If
You'd
you
have
would
do it
like us to
separate.
remove it, I would be very comfortable with that. And we could just take it out and just have it be a procedure, which is what it says. It says, you know, pre-employment policies and procedures. So that section we could just remove from the employee handbook if desired.
Or we could like take a look at this and kind of separate. There's some other things in there that would come out as well and come back.
Yeah.
This should be a regular process. We should be bringing things like this to you every few months with changes and updates. And maybe the next one would be, let's separate it out and put the employee policies, employee handbook, and just including employee-related policies, and then create a separate procedures manual. It has grown a lot. We've established a lot of new procedures that we've been bringing forward over the last 4 years.
And then, Aaron, a question on page 40. Today, do we go away from the word sick leave? Do we go more towards discretionary days or something like, you know, you don't see sick leaves as much anymore in employee manuals?
You know, in the public sector, you do see sick leave still, but I mean, I'm not opposed to calling it something else, but I mean, I don't think it's necessary.
We do still require certain documentation. It is in Germantown. It is sick leave. You have to be sick in order to use it, and in certain circumstances, you have to show documentation that you know, doctor's note or things
After
like that.
3 days,
3
if you're
days.
still,
Yeah.
yep, after 3 days if you're still sick.
We have had discussions over the past few years about going to more of a paid time off
PTO.
approach. I think and that may be, that's probably a longer discussion and conversation.
Well, it is because it can be tied to your retirement.
Yes.
You can accumulate sick leave for retirement purposes.
When I was on the county, I was on the committee. It took us a year to go through that.
Because that was my other point, just follow up something
It's a nice
Steve.
idea, but you probably have it at work, don't you?
The PTO.
Yes, same here.
Down the road.
The other question was, is three days, it says, if you miss more than 3 consecutive work days, you need a doctor's excuse.
Mm-hmm.
That seems kind of quick to me, to be honest with you. I've seen 5 as more the standard.
In the ones I've seen in the public sector, they've all been 3. So, you know,
And I would also add that can be, as someone who's had to do that myself, now one of the benefits, we have the online medical appointments. So it can be as simple as going online with a medical provider, describing your symptoms and asking them to provide a medical excuse. I think what we hear from a lot of the managers in the field is that it's helpful to have that at 3 days. You know, if you see if you have employees who are regularly taking a, you know, Thursday, Friday, Monday, or that kind of thing. But again,
it's just to prevent abuse. So,
But in today's world, good luck getting into a doctor's office that fast. Because normally they're going to require you to come in. They aren't going to do a talk over the phone situation, right?
They will allow the online visits,
Right.
you know, are adequate and employees seem to be having pretty good luck being able to utilize those.
So,
All right, anything else on the employee manual? Great, thank you, Aaron. With that, we'll move on to the reports, monthly financial summaries, year-to-date revenue and expense reports for all funds, and the first one is for 2021.
I'm sorry, Trustee Miller. Is this approved to go to the board
Oh,
then? For
I didn't know
approval?
you were looking for an approval tonight, sir.
I thought it was going to come back, but Steve was talking about, he was going to look at other things that may be also in there. I would agree with what Bill had talked about on that particular part, if there's some other parts.
I would like to get this section though approved first and then go back and review it for the second part. Instead of review it on top of, I don't want any of the changes to get lost. So I'd rather approve
sense.
this.
Then
this
we can
part
always update it.
so that we don't have to relook at all of this again. And we can just look at the future changes.
Okay.
All right, with that, we'll move back to the employee manual. And
Motion to approve what was presented to us this evening.
all right, we have a motion to approve the employee manual as it is in our packets. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to the monthly reports, the exciting part. The end of the year, now this isn't finalized yet for December 31st, right?
Correct. There's a lot of additional entries that need to be made. And I know the number that jumps out is the year-end balance is you know, very favorable. And I believe that it will be a very good year when all of that is wrapped up and said and done. But there are a lot of changes, and that number will, right now, it's at about $3.5 million surplus. It will be quite a bit smaller than that, but I think still a very good year end for the village.
There's a couple things that stood out to me, and I did not compare our new budget to this, but the telephone budget was significantly higher. I mean, I'm sorry, the actual was significantly higher than the budgeted amount under, I forget which page it is in the packet here.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
That just needs to be allocated back to the departments. So it will not be an additional
So that's-
expenditure, but just allocation is
Got
what needs to happen. There's a few of those that are that way.
Okay. Then
good.
the other thing I noticed is that a lot of the supplies accounts were quite a bit higher than normal is. Are we going through a lot of supplies all of a sudden? Is the budget changed for 2022 in those areas?
No, very similar as well, that just needs to be an allocation. For instance, the clerk treasurer's department places a lot of those orders, and then that is allocated to the different departments after that
Okay.
after that order is done. So you are correct.
Great, thanks.
Deanna, my question would be, would we have the final results of this sometime in March?
I would like to see carryover come through in February, but we'll have to wait and see.
Thank you.
All right, that was 2021. Anything in 2022 so far you want to review? If not, we'll move to accounts payable. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in there.
And
of
just
AP.
Just a side note, you'll see the tax refunds listed in there as well. So those are being processed weekly back to the property owners.
Yes, what are the tax refunds for?
That is where property owners have escrowed with their mortgage company or an escrow company, and they've been making payments monthly, and then that amount is sent to the village. And if there's an
It's an overpayment.
overage, then that amount goes back to the property owner, the taxpayer. And I'm just keeping the committee, just so you know what's going on, in case you get phone calls, then you're able to see, oh, yes, we are processing them as quick as we can.
that's because the check is made out correct to both the village and to the individual. So
You are also correct. So it would say and, so it'd have the property owner and the village, and then the overage is sent back to the property owner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? All right, then we'll move on to the contract updates.
And I am moving down to that report, which, by the way, is prepared every month for the committee by our deputy clerk treasurer here, who does a good job of keeping that organized and getting that information together. You can see there's a couple of items of note here that under the administrator approved contracts, there was, and I need to put my glasses on. We did approve the Go 365 contract as we talked about during the budget, so that is underway. Further down the list, we had talked the last time this report was before the village board, there were a lot of items that were coming due at the end of the year. And you can see that the bulk of those have been approved under the list of contracts agreements by department. You can see that we've gotten through a number of those, the approval processes. There are a few outliers yet that we need to wrap up, but we've made a lot of progress over the last couple of months.
Great. Any questions on the contracts or comments? Sounds good. With that, we'll move to the last report, and that's the capital data IT report update.
So I do apologize to this committee. We were supposed to meet last Friday, and both myself and the lead on our IT team were both sick. So we will have a report for you next month, but unfortunately, we don't have a report for you this month.
Problem. All right, thanks. With that, we are done with all agenda items, so we'll move to schedule our next meeting. The next one should be February 21st, if that works out for everyone. Monday, February 21st, 6 p.m. Great. So we'll book it then, and with that, we will adjourn at 6:58 p.m.